Welcome to the Mental Health Hub. As usual, it is very important we contextualize or look at the issues that are really a challenge today for us as a people, as a country. This drought situation in Kajiado and in the country is still a concern, especially now knowing we are in the mid of the season, the October, November, December rainfall season for Kenya. The forecast went out. Everywhere you can already see that actually as the forecast was, the rains have not performed because most of the country is still experiencing a dry spell, whereby many places the onset or the season has not started. The rains have not started. Kajiado is no exception. The episodes or the time I have spent in this county to be able to understand the drought situation actually shows that the rains have not started yet in Kajiado. And from the previous episode, we know that the farmers, the people that we have interviewed, have actually demonstrated that it is a dire situation. They have lost their animals. The ones that have remained are very weak because they lack pasture, they lack water. As Amos mentioned in the previous episode, actually farmers are selling now goats so that they can be able to get some pasture, to be able to buy some food for the cows that are already very, very weak. The women have started adapting on other ways of making a living. The animals that are dying, you have seen that now they are getting to start to sell the fat or the cooking fat that they are able to make from the litter of the cows and the goats that are remaining. It is a dire situation. It is not likely getting better, especially when I look around in this county, really, even in this place that I am in today, still Kajiado, it is desperately dry. And when you look at what is happening across the country, seemingly the region that is dry seems to be enlarging. Of late, a county like Meru, where we knew as a country that Meru was always green, there was food continuously. We hear calls for help. The Meru County, where we used to have a lot of rain, now has become a county of late that actually we are asking for food, as it is like a humanitarian situation. The counties today that have been declared to have severe drought are increasing. Before, we used to know the northeastern region of the country. We used to know the northern area of this nation actually being pastoralist majorly. Oftentimes, they would record situations or drought situations where there is a lot of migration of animals being moved from one county to another in search of pasture and water. This is not only an issue of pasture. It's not only an issue of food, even for the families. Families are going without food. As we have recorded in Kajiado, 1 meal per day in most of the drought-stricken families. We have seen situation, or we have heard of the situation where they are saying the elderly, the sick, are faced with the difficult situations because nutritionally, a person who is sick requires a balanced diet, sufficient and clean water for them to be able even to take the medicine and for the medicine to be able to work, for them to reduce the stress that is related with the disease that they are already suffering and now having a challenge of having food, seeing their animals die, seeing their livelihood wasted. It is a dire situation that we are faced with. The situation is really a big challenge. And responses have been given. People, communities have called for help, for food, for water. Thank God, government, humanitarian organizations have responded. To a great extent, evidently, food has been flagged to go to the communities or the people that are in dire need of food. Water is being moved with the buses to those families, to those communities, not only for the people to drink, but also for the remaining livestock to be salvaged so that they can be able to get water to drink. It is a good thing. These are good initiatives to help alleviate the pain or to help reduce the pain that our people are going through. We have seen also in situations where disease has struck, maybe diarrheal diseases or diseases that are linked or climate sensitive disease. Medicine has also been moved to be able to help those people so that they can at least be taken care of physically. But I feel we need to move a step higher. I believe some organizations are trying to respond to the mental issues or the psychological issues that people are faced with in these drought situations. But I need to say that part of the package for humanitarian response, mental health interventions should be part of the response. It is evident from the interviews we have had in the previous episode. You had in the episodes where it was highlighted that there are people who are getting so worried, there are people who are very sad, there are people who even cry. People are just roaming around or moving around, helpless, hopeless, at the loss of their livelihoods, at the loss of their livestock, at the fact that you are looking at your children and you cannot feed them. Some are being sent away from school because, the cows, the goats that the family depended on to be able to meet the basic needs, so that an elderly man, a family man, would sell several ends of cattle to be able to pay school fees for his children, to be able to buy food for his family, to be able to clothe his family, to be able to buy medicine when there was need, to basically be able to meet the basic need of his family. Now that thing is kind of a thing of the past. Men, women are struggling to take care of their family, besides taking care of their own individual selves. Where do we go with this? It is important, as the councillor also mentioned, that there are psychological issues that are emerging from these drought situations. There is need for professionals to be able to form part of the response team or the helping teams that are going out there to support the people who are drought stricken, as they get food for their stomach, as they get water to be able to drink, as they are treated for the physical illnesses that they could have. Then we need to be able to address the psychological issues that are as a result of this. Why is it important to do that? Trauma or past the drought will come and go, but the mental anguish it has caused the people will remain as a wound in the mind of not only the elderly people, the adults, but also the children who are seeing their families struggling, who are watching TV and seeing families in the children in the urban areas are going to school. They are not struggling. They are going to school, but them, by virtue of the nature where they are stuck. They are not able to afford school fees. They are going to school on an empty stomach. They feel like they do not belong. Their self-esteem is affected. Just take it, a child who has been brought in a drought situation, seeing this suffering because they are malnourished, suffering because they can see the trauma or the pain that their parents are going through. That child grows likely with the trauma, with pain, a wound in their mind, that with time, and I say with time, likely this child will develop a mental disorder. And that's why it is very important for these children to be helped to navigate through this difficult time without leaving a wound in their mind that will affect their future, that will disadvantage them, even if later they are able to get resources, but they developed a wound in their formative stages. That's where you find even at times developing a personality that is not a very pleasant personality because of the challenges they faced. Look at a situation where maybe in their family conflicts arose in the community as people fight for pasture, as elderly people fight for water to feed the cattle. And then incidentally, people were killed. That child becomes an orphan. They get even more disadvantaged. That child saw violence that resulted from a drought situation. They live with anger. They grow with pain. They grow with shame. They grow with hate. What becomes of that child later? That's the time in adolescence, in their teenage, likely they will manifest a mental disorder. That's why it is very, very important as response teams, as the humanitarian institutions, as responsible and responsive adults, we need to consider and to put emphasis on the importance of mental health. Drought is resorting to also malnutrition, is resorting to a lot of pain that is leading to people at times developing non-communicable diseases like high blood pressure, like diabetes, like mental illnesses. and this has been reported, it is documented. WHO has spoken to this. Research has spoken to this. We cannot wish it away. We can only be responsive enough to actually ask ourselves, how is the future? How will the tomorrow of our society be? We will have interventions in place that will make sure that we have food, that we have water to some extent. But are we having a healthy population? Are we having a people that can be able to live well, to be able to be productive, to live a quality life without pain, without shame, without hunger, without looking at themselves and feeling nature is against us? So everybody is against us. So they become themselves violent. It is important that as a society, we focus on the issues, mental health. I need not overemphasize this again, but I think professionals need to step out there. Professionals, I say the psychologists, I say the counselors, the psychiatrists, the people in the medical profession, administrators need to call out for help, need to step out so that we can be able to have a population that is healthy physically, mentally, and that is productive, and there is peace as even we reduce poverty in our society. It is therefore important that we call ourselves to order as humanitarian responders, as people in the helping profession, as partners out there. This is a new frontier for funding. This is a new frontier for response. This is where intervention needs to go. This needs to be included in the interventions at the community level, at the county levels, at the national levels, at the regional levels, and even globally, because this suffering need not to continue. Resources needs to follow a need, and this is a need that requires resources in terms of training at the community level, so that even people can be able to understand. The community leaders can actually be able to link health, mental disorders with difficult situations like drought, so that response can be able to begin at the community level, so that families can be able to understand the outbursts that we see amongst ourselves is because of a difficult day that mom has had, dad has had, trying to make a living for us, trying to recover from drought, trying to navigate around the loss that has been occasioned by loss of livelihoods. So I call us all that we put resources where the need is at the community level and professionalize the response, especially for mental health issues that are emerging and that are in the increase. Because when you listen to people who are dying by suicide, who are actually even committing homicide because of the hopelessness and the desperate situations that they are faced with, we need to factor this issue of mental health. Because at the end of the day, one life lost is one too many. I believe that this is time to be able to save the situation before it gets worse. Simply because a mental disorder is a slow setting It sets in slowly. It will manifest much later in life. And oftentimes, we may not be able to link it to where it started. So if we can be able to prevent development of mental disorders, it is a nice place to begin, so that we emphasize prevention, so that we do not get to a point of actually just doing curative interventions. We need to emphasize prevention. We need to create awareness. We need to have the necessary critical mass of professionals at all levels so that response can be intensified. I look forward to having another opportunity to explore further and see that even as we think of sustainable development goals, even as we think of having development that is sustainable at whatever level, we are thinking about the people who are the drivers of development. Thank you, and see you next time. Remember to like, share, as well as subscribe to the Mental Health Hub.